morning, guys. I hope you're having an amazing day. Today we are headed to VF Engineering to tune the Toyota Supra. And we got a bunch of the boys together because it's about to be friggin' sick. Oh my God, Sean is ripping up the driveway. He's got to flex because his tuned car is slower than my stock one. You can hear that through the window? Good morning, Sean. I am so excited to tune this car. I'm already having an absolute blast with it in stock form. So with some extra power, it should be pretty awesome. I'm excited to see how much extra power VF can get out of the stock motor with the stock exhaust. Then of course, we're gonna do downpipes, a full exhaust, retune it. Then we're gonna upgrade the turbo, retune it again, maybe run some different fuel, some race gas, some E85, potentially some ethanol injection, see how much power we can really push. Look at this, a Humvee with no doors and a guy on his laptop in the back. That's sweet. After a nice little drive, we finally showed up to VF Engineering. So we just showed up to VF. Nick, how's it going?
Great, Parker.
I am so pumped you're about to tune the Supra.
Yes.
Have you tuned a Supra before?
No, but we've tuned the same engine family.
Yeah, so the B58, it's in a ton of different cars. Obviously, you're super experienced with BMW tuning, so came to my boys at VF. What is this? This is one of the most beautiful color RS5s I've ever seen, and you guys just modified it also?
It is. It's a custom ordered Mexico blue. That's the Porsche color.
Oh, so this isn't a wrap, this is actually a paint?
Yep, it's factory paint finish. The car is owned by Pacific German in Laguna.
Gotcha.
They're our performance partner. They install a lot of our products. And it's fully kitted out with a full ABT body kit, all of the carbon you can think of.
Yeah, this is unbelievable.
And it's got a full exhaust system, so sport exhaust system, and then we've tuned it, so it's our stage 2.
Okay.
And I'd love to hear what you think about it.
And so how much more power is stage 2? What are we talking?
Well, at most of the driving range, it's about an extra 90 at all 4 wheels, that's 90 horsepower, and an extra 120 pounds of torque.
Okay. This is gonna be fun. Let's go for a ride. So I reviewed the new RS5 a couple months ago, but the one I reviewed was not spec'd out as beautifully as this and had nowhere near the options. I'm actually loving this car a lot more. Check out all of the carbon fiber details throughout the interior. Literally almost everything is carbon fiber, and that beautiful quilted leather and Alcantara seats. Let's go for a spin. Oh my God, this is fast. So stock, the car makes 444 horsepower and 443 pound-feet of torque. But because this is a VF car, it's now making 532 pound-feet of torque at all 4 wheels. 532 pound-feet. This car is no slouch. Stock form, all-wheel drive, 0 to 60 in 3.7 seconds, but with this level of torque, it's a monster. An aftermarket exhaust sounds good, too. Oh boy! All right, all-wheel drive car, 532 wheel torque. Gonna need to have to do a launch control. Let's see how this goes. So to put an Audi RS5 into launch control, all you have to do is put the car into sport mode or manual mode. Click the ESC button once to put it into ESC Sport. Floor the brake with your left foot, floor the gas with your right, and then let off the brake, and we'll launch to 0 to 60 in really fast. Let's see. Whoa! That is one of the hardest launches I've ever experienced. Oh my God. This car is epic, guys. It's got the perfect amount of power for the all-wheel drive system. So the launch off the line is just ridiculous. Nick, the car is crazy. It's actually amazing.
It's wild. It's an extra 100 pounds of torque of 4 wheels. Who wouldn't want that?
I agree. This gave me a total newfound love and respect for the RS5. Obviously enjoyed it when I reviewed a stock one, but this is another level of response and power that really brings the car alive.
It's such a well-built car. Audi have done such an amazing job with these turbo platforms that have just been out for a while now, a couple of years. But the RS5 is like the epitome of everything they do. It's just like an R8 V10 Plus. And then what we've done is just turned up the dial slightly by turning up the boost by about 3 PSI, 4 PSI, and it just wakes the car up.
So if you guys are interested, when I have a bit more time and all my cameras set up, I want to do a full review on this thing because it's a pretty spectacular vehicle. We almost ready to tune the Supra?
Let's do it.
All right. What kind of language was that? The genius plugging in his laptop. So what's step one of the Supra tuning process?
Step one is to get a readout of the factory software.
Okay.
And then we'll evaluate that on the desktop and see what sort of mapping we're going to be dealing with.
Cool. So first time in the new Z4? Have you driven the new Supra yet?
No, I haven't. This is my first Supra.
All right. So we're doing some on-road testing.
Get some feedback on how the car feels. I'm
Cool.
looking for a feel or a vibe on how the car responds to the throttle. Because what we want to do is give owners a more pleasurable, more exciting experience than what they already have. So we've got to figure out and feel what kind of changes, because a lot of it's about emotion. So tuning isn't just about dyno numbers, peak numbers or torque, but most of all, how the car responds to the throttle pedal.
That is what I used to tell myself when I gained 10 horsepower on my 330i. I'm like, the throttle response is so much better and it's so much more exciting, but it's actually true.
And we're going to get more than 10 horsepower.
We're going to get way more than 10 horsepower, so I'm excited for that. Thoughts so far on the car?
Smooth, even. The boost comes in really linearly, and it keeps pulling all the way to red line.
It's actually pretty quick.
Yeah, I'd like to see how it feels when the temperature's warmer outside. That would be interesting.
You think it might have some cooling issues?
I can't really predict, but I have seen that a lot of cars in general, turbo cars, have limits or limitations.
Yeah.
Performance, and there's nothing wrong with that. So we're looking to improve cooling as well on this.
Cool. Literally cool. Nick just noticed 300 miles into my ownership and the badge is already falling apart. Nice. All right, so one thing I didn't notice yesterday when we took the exhaust off the car was on the underside. Obviously, people are joking a bunch about how the Supra is very similar or is a BMW Z4. On the exhaust itself, it literally says, it's got a BMW roundel on it, and it says made in Germany. And he was just saying it looks exactly like his 440 exhaust. That is too funny. Speaking of other things that we didn't notice before, have you ever seen a tire? This is a Michelin Pilot Supersport with a QR code on the side of it from the factory. Yeah, what happens when you pull it up?
Oh, only my camera works.
Selfie.
Oh. Oh, that's how easy it was.
See, look how useful that information is. So the Supra is on the dyno now, ready to get some stock dyno numbers. Now, we've got a unique opportunity because most shops don't have two different dynos. So why are we on the Mustang dyno instead of the Dyno Jet?
The Mustang dyno puts a load on the engine because of the load module that we have in it. And it also gives us the ability to dyno in four-wheel drive as well as two-wheel drive. So this car and most cars are going to experience load through all four wheels, so a drivetrain loss through the entire transmission system, the drivetrain system, and we're measuring power at the wheels. So using a dyno that puts a load on the entire engine and the driveline similar to what it gets on the street will give us a number that's fairly close or more representative of what the engine's actually making. Because the car manufacturer's advertising numbers that the engine makes at the flywheel, so that's when the engine's outside the car and they measure it on a test rig. We're measuring the power at the wheels. Now we've got two dynos. This car's right now on the Mustang MD500 all-wheel drive dyno, and we also have a two-wheel drive Dyno Jet.
That one's over here.
Yep. And the Dyno Jet is this particular model. It's a relatively new one. It's about 4 years old. It's a Dyno Jet 224. It's a no-load version. So the car will actually, the engine will, and the drivetrain system will not experience the kind of load the car will on the street, and that will actually allow the engine to make more power. So the numbers on that dyno tend to be higher than the ones on the Mustang, which has a lot more load on the engine. But the Mustang also allows us to run the car in four-wheel drive. So we can make some great comparisons, Parker.
Cool. So that one, if we want to have really impressive numbers for the internet, we do the Dyno Jet. And if we want more realistic numbers,
Obviously, the most important part about the dyno is to run it same conditions, same day on the same dyno when we tune the car, so we can get a good before and after.
Exactly. So when we've derived on the final version of the tune for your car, this is the first Supra we're doing, but it's the same engine and ECU that we've seen in other BMWs. But when we do, we can instantly flash it back to stock and get stock numbers, so we can do like-for-like comparisons within the same environmental conditions, like you were saying. The other thing is the load dyno will allow us to time the dyno run so that it can take the same amount of time that it does on the street to travel the same RPM range in the same gear. So it's very representative of what it's doing on the street.
Stock dyno pulls in the Supra. It took us about, well, a long time to figure out how to put this car actually into dyno mode. It's pretty sensitive.
Yeah, getting these cars into test mode, because they're two-wheel drive, and the computers are designed to expect a wheel speed signal from the front wheels and the rear wheels, and it's not, because we're running in two-wheel drive mode. So it puts the car into like a trip-out mode. Anyway, we've got it in test mode, and I'm putting in manual, and we're going to go. We're going to do a pull in 5th gear because it's an 8-speed car. Our calculations show that that's approximately a 1-to-1 ratio. Alright, so we're going to 5th gear. Go down. Feel the car is nice and stable. We've got it really tightly strapped down.
So the stock numbers for the car measured at the crank are 335 horsepower and 365 pound-feet of torque. So what would you expect if it did come out exactly like the stock numbers?
Right.
What would that be looking like in terms of wheel horsepower and torque?
Yeah, usually on a two-wheel drive car, we see around an 18% drivetrain loss.
Okay.
So 365 horsepower at the crank would be approximately 275 horsepower at the wheels.
We'll pull out the calculator to save your brain.
Okay.
So let's see.
365 times 0.8.
All right, so 292 is what we're looking for wheel torque wise. And then horsepower, 335, 268 horsepower at the wheels. We've got the numbers. Let's see what it shows. So here are 3 different dyno runs for the Supra. What kind of numbers are we looking at?
Okay, so as you said, these 3 colors, this trace, they all represent 3 different dyno pulls, and you can see how consistent the horsepower readings are. So the peak power the car is making is approximately 305 horsepower at 2 wheels.
Yeah, so that's significantly more than 268.
Yes, it is. That is approximately, I would put it in a region of around 350 horsepower, 360 horse. And then for torque, we can see again the car put down some very consistent numbers on 3 consecutive back-to-back runs. Even as the car was actually heating up, it still continued to make about the same torque. And we're seeing on overboost, which is the initial ramp up, the surge, 362 pounds per foot of torque. And generally the car, when it's leveled out, is making 350 pounds per foot of torque at the wheels on two-wheel drive mode.
So once again, pretty strong numbers, definitely underrated from the factory.
Yeah.
I'm impressed.
The 350 torque at the wheels is closer to around 410, which is significantly more, at least in this condition.
And that definitely makes sense, the results that we got versus the 440i that was tuned, for this to be underrated from the factory. Also 300-pound lighter car, but I'm excited to see what kind of power we can make when you actually tune it.
Yeah, it looks like they've under-promised and over-delivered.
So for all the people commenting about how I'm hooning this car from the get-go, we did a burnout the day I bought it. What did you just say to me, Nick?
I don't work for a car manufacturer, but I can tell you these engines come pre-broken in. They run them before they put them in the engine.
100%,
Yes,
yeah.
Yes.
So there you go. 323 miles in, we're on the dyno and we're tuning it. So we've got the baseline dyno numbers. What is the next step for the car?
Well, we've been logging the car on the dyno as well as measuring its horsepower, and that allows us to collect data on how the engine's running, such as the engine's exhaust gas temperatures, the cam timing, all of the key metrics for the engine's performance. And what we're doing now is our technical engineers are going through the factory software to analyze the tuning parameters, the calibration tables, and we're going to start adjusting them little by little and making adjustments to increase the horsepower and torque. And then we're going to test them and continue that process and get to a final calibration that we're going to get back to you.
So how does this differentiate from the BMW 340i's or 440i's that you have seen? Is the ECU information different in any way, or?
It's a great question. So we read the software out of the ECU using the same system we use on all the BMW platforms that we're currently tuning. And we've noticed, we've already started going through the software, so whilst you've been filming the car and the dyno, our engineers have been going through the Supra code and found that there's a number of changes that there are compared to the BMW software for the same engine. So in areas where there's tuning calibration in the BMW files, there isn't any for the Supra model, and vice versa. So what we're doing is we're going through it painstakingly and analyzing and identifying the tuning tables, and then we're going to start making those changes.
So guys, I am so pumped. We're gonna leave the car with VF to give them time to make sure they get this tune absolutely perfect. I can't wait to see what they're able to do and how much power they're able to push out of the engine. But more importantly, how much more fun the car is gonna be after the tune. It's still gonna be reliable. And then afterwards, when we get that exhaust, we get the downpipes, and then we upgrade the turbo. And we brainstormed a lot of ideas today for some pretty wild things we can do to the Supra. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Like always, please browse the channel and subscribe. Seriously, special thanks to VF Engineering and Nick for providing the dyno, for tuning this car. They're the best in the business. More on that later. See you guys next video.